The voice we found. Elias Monroe stood silently in front of the towering windows of his estate in Chestnut Hill, overlooking the fading Boston skyline. The evening was dressed in gold, but all Elias felt was the colorless weight of helplessness. Another expert had just exited his daughter's room with the same tired expression, the same quiet defeat. Another round of high hopes reduced to uncertainty. Mr. Monroe, the neurologist's voice was polite but offered little consolation. We're still unable to pinpoint the root cause of Camille's regression. Elias's grip tightened around the medical report in his hand until the thick paper crumpled. His 7-year-old daughter, once a vibrant, curious soul, had been slipping away for 3 weeks. No eye contact, no responses, no sound, only an eerie silence that settled like a storm inside his chest. That's unacceptable, he muttered. Elias had built a tech conglomerate from nothing, transforming a cluttered apartment startup into a global empire. He was used to results, to control, to answers. I brought a neurologist from Zurich, therapist from Tokyo. There has to be a reason. The doctor shifted uncomfortably. There's still so many unknowns with rare neurological regressions. All we can do now is provide comfort, consistency, and hope for a turn. I don't pay for hope, Elias snapped, voice sharp but controlled. I pay for solutions. After the doctor left, Elias made his way into Camille's room. It was more hospital than childhood, sanctuary machines humming, monitors blinking, a sterile quiet always hovering over the bed. Camille sat upright with the help of pillows, her pale blonde hair combed neatly, her favorite soft blue dress clean and pressed. But her eyes, they stared into nothing. He kneeled beside her, gently taking her hand. I'm here, Pumpkin, he whispered. Daddy's right here. But she didn't blink, didn't stir, not even a flicker of recognition. His thoughts drifted, uninvited, to 2 weeks ago at Franklin Park. Camille had been sitting with her caretaker, her legs swinging silently from a bench. Elias had stood at a distance, hiding behind a tree like some furtive observer, hoping to see a trace of his daughter, the girl who used to laugh, hum, gesture wildly at birds. Instead, he saw strangers approach. 3 boys, young, ragged. The eldest, no more than 9, had a protective look about him. The middle child held a duct-tape backpack. The smallest boy clutched a threadbare plush owl. Elias had felt a jolt of alarm and stepped forward, ready to intervene. But what happened next made him freeze. The eldest boy began making silly faces, and Camille smiled. It was faint, like the echo of a memory, but unmistakable. The middle boy pulled from his bag a series of hand-drawn cards, each labeled with basic emotions. Happy. Sad. Hello. He laid them out on the bench. I made these for my little brother. He didn't talk good either, the boy explained. And then the youngest boy, no older than 5, took Camille's hand gently and whispered soft sounds. Not words, but rhythmic syllables that felt more like music than language. And Camille opened her mouth. It was barely a sound, but it was something. Her first voluntary reaction in weeks. Elias had lost it. He stormed toward them, shouting, yanking Camille away, firing the caretaker on the spot. The oldest boy stumbled back, the cards scattered across the dirt. An elderly woman, likely their guardian, rushed over, pleading, trying to explain. But Elias had dismissed her with the same disdain he reserved for journalists and competitors. He took Camille and left. Now, staring at the pale silence that had become his daughter's presence, he realized he may have extinguished the only spark that had broken through her silence. I'm sorry, he whispered, voice cracking. I messed up. The next morning, Elias found Walter, his longtime driver and the closest thing to a confidant, sipping coffee by the service entrance. I need you to find them, Elias said without preamble. Find who, sir? The kids from the park. And their guardian. Walter blinked in surprise, then nodded. Yes, Mr. Monroe. I'll do my best. 3 days passed. Walter combed through shelters, community centers, and neighborhoods near Franklin Park. Finally, in a tucked-away youth community house in Jamaica Plain, he found them. The elderly woman's name was Etta. The boys Jace, Liam, and Micah were her grandsons. "You want my boys to come to your mansion now?" she asked, arms crossed. "After the way you treated them?" "I understand your hesitation," Walter said sincerely. "But it's not for Mr. Monroe. It's for Camille. She's not improving." Jace, the oldest, tugged on Etta's sleeve. "Grammy, we have to help the quiet girl." She looked at me. Really looked. Etta studied Walter. Studied her grandsons. "I'll do it for the child," she said. "Not for him." When a family arrived at the Monroe estate, the contrast was striking. Mahogany floors, towering staircases, hand-carved molding in 3 small boys in thrifted coats clutching handmade tools of hope. Camille didn't respond at first, but then Micah approached, as if he'd never left, and gently took her hand. "Hi again," he whispered. Her eyes moved, and then Jace stepped in, making silly faces again. Liam carefully laid out his cards, and Camille smiled. A day later, she said her first sound in weeks. "Yeah, she's saying my name." Jace whispered, eyes wide. Elias broke down in the hallway. From that day forward, everything changed. Elias invited the family to return each afternoon. He offered money. Etta refused it. "When not for sale, but will come for the girl." The mansion began to transform. Liam created new communication boards with photos of objects Camille loved. Jace built games from shoeboxes. Micah and Camille spent hours sitting in the garden holding hands, exchanging quiet looks and whispered sounds. The specialists took notes. Speech therapists stood back, humbled. And Elias? He joined, at first awkwardly, then with determination. He sat on the floor. He learned their sound language. He laughed. He failed. He tried again. He asked Etta questions. He apologized. Weeks passed. Camille began to use cards to form thoughts. Want water. Bird happy. Love Grammy. One night, she arranged 3 cards on the dinner table. Safe. Family. Here. Elias looked around. At Etta setting dishes. At Jace demonstrating. At Liam explaining it to his staff therapist. At Micah rubbing Camille's back. Family. It didn't look like the glossy Christmas cards of his past, but it felt like truth. One morning, Walter entered Elias's office with concern. "Sir, there's a woman at the gate." "Who?" "She says she's the boy's mother. Her name was Nadine. She was tall, tired, fierce, and angry. You let my kids into this place without my permission?" she demanded, face flushed. "They've been living here." Etta tried to calm her. The boys clung to her. But then Camille appeared, clutching Liam's board. She pointed. "Friend. Saad. Go." Nadine stared. Her children hugged her. They explained. Camille smiled at her, and Nadine softened. Over dinner that evening, Elias offered her a job. She refused. "This isn't charity," he said. "Your son saved my daughter." Eventually, Nadine accepted a position at Monroe Technologies Community Engagement, based in Providence. They moved into the guest house on the estate. Camille's progress continued. Then came a call. Dr. Kessler from Zurich. "An experimental surgical procedure," he said. "A chance for full vocal restoration." The data was tempting, but Elias hesitated. He asked Camille what she wanted. Using her board, she responded, scared. "Love sounds now. Micah, help me talk." She declined, and Elias respected it. When Dr. Kessler followed up, Elias responded firmly. "My daughter is already living an extraordinary life." A year later, the Monroe estate had changed forever. The medical wing was now a learning center. The garden had playgrounds. And Camille? She stood on stage next to Jace, Liam, and Micah at the inaugural showcase of the Monroe Center for Communicative Discovery. She used sign, sounds, and words. "Thank you," she said clearly. "You gave me voice." In the audience, Elias wept quietly. Family, he realized, is not made of matching last names or wealth. It is forged in grace, in connection, and in moments where silence is met not with fear but with love. And from that day forward, the mansion once built for power became a home, finally built for people.